3 speakers signed up to speak. Just ask that when you come up to the mic, state your name and address and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. The first person signed up is Mercedes Neese.
Good evening. I'm Mercedes Neese, 128 Erie Street, 5th Ward, and I'm also the Executive Director at the H. Lee White Maritime Museum. And I'm going to defer my 5 minutes over to Dr. Bob Morgan, who's going to speak to you about a very important event we're going to be having, and all of you have been initially made aware of, but we're following up to educate the community as well.
Thanks, Merce. Thanks for your time again. Robert Morgan, 3 Mayflower Circle, 7th Ward, and Vice President of the Board at the Maritime Museum. We have an event coming up that we wanted to really bring to everybody's attention. We have enjoyed our relationship with the city in helping running the Lighthouse tours. Through your generous help, we are able to obtain a newer to us pontoon boat this last summer, much nicer for the people doing the tours than the one we were using. And we have decided, one of the many things we talk about when we take people out to the Lighthouse is the tragedy that happened December 4th, 1942, when 6 Coast Guardmen essentially drowned from hypothermia when they tried to exchange the lighthouse keeper. We are renaming our boat. The name is Honored 6 Lighthouse Tender. It has been renamed. This December is the 80th anniversary of the tragedy, and we want to try to bring some national and at least state level attention to it. We're having an event on that date from 1 to 3. We're not sure where because depending upon we hope to get 200 to 300 people to be there, from the governor to our state senator and congressmen, to our county legislatures, to the city council members, a number of people through the hierarchy of the Coast Guard, the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, all the groups that work well with it. Most people don't realize that this is during wartime, and the vast majority of deaths that happen in a war are not during combat. Combat makes up probably 30%, 35% at the most, depending upon the war. It's routine things. Our Coast Guard has been here for a long time, and their routine is they're at battle with nature all the time. They get Mother Nature when she's really ticked off at us, and they have to go out there because somebody with not the right amount of brain power has gone out into the storm sometime. And it's like firemen, they're the ones that run into a building that's burning. And we just don't think they're given the recognition that they should have. And this is one of the largest tragedies of one event for the Coast Guard during the early parts of the war, not counting Pearl Harbor, which happened 3 days later on the 7th, but a year earlier. But so we want to bring some attention to that. And it's going to be from 1 to 3. We're not sure of where it's going to be yet. We're probably leaning towards the convention center, and we're talking to the parties that be. It depends on when we get the numbers. And we have some information we can pass out.
May I pass this out? Okay.
To you, and then we also have it for anybody in the audience. The Coast Guard's excited. We're hoping to get the commandant or the vice commandant, but she is not able to come. I just found out this week. But we would anticipate people from Rochester and Buffalo office and everybody from the Coast Guard station here. We were hoping, with a big event, we are hoping that there might be some funding, discretionary funding, that we might be able to get to help put this on. And we thought we'd ask for a couple of $1,000s if possible, because obviously we're going to need to feed the people when they come. If as many people come as we think are going to come, then it's going to be good for the hotels, restaurants, and it's sort of a sundry around. We thought 1 to 3 would be a good time, so that sometimes when the weather is bad, it could be a problem. But we again want to personally invite all of you, and we'll be sending out some other invites to the legislature. And again, we appreciate our relationship with running the lighthouse. We're doing things constantly to improve it and renovate it out there. We work well with the city. They needed to get the sign off saying there was a cable there, which there wasn't, and we got that off. So, so that I'd just like to thank you again for your time, and hopefully as many of you as possible can be there, and we'll go from there. If any questions develop, you can certainly contact MERS or myself at the museum, and then we can go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker signed up is Tyler Ahart.
Okay, good evening. Some of you I know better than others, so for the sake of introductions, my name is Tyler Ahart. I'm the project coordinator for the Oswego County Prevention Coalition. And here today, I'm here to talk to you guys about some of the findings from our most recent Pride Youth Development Survey data. The sake of this is really just to raise awareness of the survey findings. I'm not lobbying for any specific cause. It is just my responsibility as a health educator to present the survey findings to you guys in the time that I'm given. Chris, I don't know if you are able to turn that a little bit, or just have some brief visuals here with the 5-minute allotment. So just some brief overview. This year, we do this survey every 2 years. This year, we've surveyed 9 out of 10 districts. The coalition has been around since 2016, and we've built our relationships with the schools over that time. You can see here in 2018, one of our very initial surveys, we only had 3 district participation. Fast forward to 2022, we had 9 out of 10. So again, we've really worked really hard at that relationship we have with our area school districts. This year's survey findings, we had 1,357 students participate. And the data I'm going to present to you guys is aggregate data, so it is not district specific. That is private for each school districts. This is aggregate data as a total collective of all 9 surveys. Excuse me. So this first we're going to talk about is the perceptions the students have of each of the following substances. So the survey asked students their perceptions and use related to tobacco, cannabis, alcohol, and prescription drugs not prescribed to them. So the first section is on students' perceptions with each substance. The substances I want to focus on as a coalition we focus on predominantly on cannabis, education, underage drinking, and prescription drug management for Oswego County. So students' perception of risk. So this might be overstimulating at first, but really what it is, it's broken down each grade level, aggregate totals from 2016 to 2022. So most recent here is in orange on the right. So what this is asking students is, for each of those substances I mentioned, what do they perceive to be the most dangerous? What do they perceive to be, have the most risk of misuse? And you can see for 12th grade, only 32% of Oswego County students report any sort of perception of risk associated with cannabis-related products. For 11th graders this year, it's down to 29.7, up 1% from 2020. Pretty sizable increase for 10th grade students, up to 46.3, and 47.1 for 9th grade 2022 students. So just to reiterate, we want 100%. Is that realistic? Absolutely not. We know the role that cannabis plays in pop culture. We know the struggle we're facing. But again, it's my responsibility just to kind of present the information that's here and what students and where their perceptions and where their actual opinions of these substances lie. Moving on in the subject of perceptions, this has questions related to students' perception of their parents' disapproval. So if they're caught with this substance, how upset do they perceive their parents are going to be with it? And you can see for 2022, the number is down to 59% of Oswego County students. So what that's saying is only 59% of Oswego County students perceive any sort of backlash or disappointment from their parents if caught using marijuana-related products. 63% for 11th grade students 2022, and so on and so forth. So again, this is a piece we'll use mostly anecdotally when we do our community outreach and engagement with parents, letting them know just to keep that at-home dialogue open and expressing what opinions they have of each of these substances and how it can impact the students' own perceptions. Past 3-day use. So these next sections of data related to underage drinking and cannabis use, this paints a picture of what the students' use look like in May of 2022 at administration. So this does not give us a look at annual use. This isn't to form a total judgment on a student's life. This is only what that use looks like in May. We like to do a survey administration at that time because it happens to be a very stressful time for students. Some are getting ready to graduate. There's job choices. There's just a lot going on. So schools don't like it because there's a lot going on in May and June, but for the survey administration, we really like that late in the year time. So past 3-day use for marijuana, any sort of THC and cannabis related product, Luckily, the use there's an increase from 2022 to 2022, but it's still very considerably low, right? 23% of Oswego County students report using a cannabis-related product within 30 days of May of 2022. We'd like those numbers. So again, it's my responsibility just to kind of convey what's going on, keep you guys up to date to what these students' patterns and what their behaviors are in data format. 6% of Oswego County ninth graders as well. Again, the numbers, we're seeing a little bit increase. 11th grade's kind of staying the same. But again, just to kind of monitor these things. But the perceptions are the greatest precursor, which we've already talked about, to their use. We really want to keep the students informed and kind of fight a lot of that, a lot of the anecdotal half-truths that surround student thought surrounding marijuana products. And past rate of use for alcohol, minor increase from 2020 to 2022, we're at 31%. But again, these numbers we're very happy with these numbers. Is zero ideal? Absolutely. But again, 31% of Oswego County students report an alcoholic beverage of some kind within 30 days of May of 2022. So again, just going to continue the momentum that we've had, and really just want to make sure that you guys are aware of the things and the core substances that we focus on. Alcohol continues to be the #1 substance for Oswego County students as well. That changes for every area. Any state, they all have their different substances of focus. For Oswego County, the substance of choice still continues to be alcohol for students. And that's it. I wanted to take time, make use of what time I had. We're right at 6 minutes, so I do have some handouts, but I won't take the time to make the lap. This is just a overall report that you guys saw, so again, welcome to use that in the future discussions you guys have, and thank you for the time.
It's great. That was a clear and concise report. Any counselors have any questions? All right. Thank you for coming. That's it for people signed up to speak. Anyone out in the audience like to speak before we close public session? All right, seeing none. Public session's closed. We'll start the meeting at 7:30.